The story of Trumpelstiltskin. Once there was a landlord who was poor, but who had a beautiful daughter. Now it happened that he had to go and speak to the GOP, and in order to make himself appear important, he said to him, "I have a daughter who can turn paper into money." GOP said to the landlord, "That is an art which pleases me well. If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her tomorrow to our house, and I will put her to the test." And when the girl was brought to the GOP, they took her into a room which was quite full of paper, gave her a printing press and an ink pad, and said, "Now set to work, and if by tomorrow morning early you have not turned this paper into money during the night, you must die." Thereupon they locked up the room, and left her in it alone. So there sat the poor landlord's daughter, and for the life of her could not tell what to do. She had no idea how paper could be turned into money, and she grew more and more frightened, until at last she began to weep. But all at once the door opened, and in came a little man, and said, "Good evening, Mistress Landlady, why are you crying so?" "Alas," answered the girl, "I have to turn the paper into money, and I do not know how to do it." "What will you give me," said the Trumpkin, "if I do it for you?" "My necklace," said the girl. The little man took the necklace, seated himself in front of the press, and were 3 turns, and the press was full. Then he put another ream of paper on, and were 3 times round, and the second paper tray was full too. And so it went on until the morning, when all the money was printed, and all the vaults were full of cash. By daybreak the GOP was already there, and when they saw the money they were astonished and delighted, but their hearts became only more greedy. They had the landlord's daughter taken into another room full of paper, which was much larger, and commanded her to print that also in one night if she valued her life. The girl knew not how to help herself, and was crying, when the door opened again, and the little man appeared, and said, "What will you give me if I print that money for you?" "The ring on my finger," answered the girl. The little man took the ring, again began to run the press, and by morning had turned all the paper into cash. The GOP rejoiced beyond measure at the sight, but still they had not money enough, and he had the landlord's daughter taken into a still larger room full of paper, and said, "You must print this, too, in the course of this night, but if you succeed, you shall be our wife." "Even if she be a landlord's daughter," thought he, "I could not find a richer wife in the whole world." When the girl was alone the Trumpkin came again for the 3rd time, and said, "What will you give me if I print the money for you this time also?" "I have nothing left that I could give," answered the girl. "Then promise me, if you should become queen, to give me your first child." "Who knows whether that will ever happen," thought the landlord's daughter, and, not knowing how else to help herself in this strait, she promised the Trumpkin what he wanted, and for that he once more spun the paper into cash. And when the GOP came in the morning, and found all as they had wished, they took her in marriage, and the pretty landlord's daughter became a queen. A year after, she brought a beautiful child into the world, and she never gave a thought to the Trumpkin. But suddenly he came into her room, and said, "Now give me what you promised." The queen was horror-struck, and offered the Trumpkin all the riches of the kingdom if they would leave her the child. But the Trumpkin said, "No, something alive is dearer to me than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to lament and cry, so that the mannikin pitied her. "I will give you 3 days' time," said he. "If by that time you find out my name, then shall you keep your child." So the queen thought the whole night of all the names that she had ever heard, and she sent a messenger over the country to inquire, far and wide, for any other names that there might be. When the mannikin came the next day, she began with Caspar, Melchior, Balthazar, and said all the names she knew, one after another, but to everyone the little man said, "That is not my name." On the 2nd day she had inquiries made in the neighborhood as to the names of the people there, and she repeated to the Trumpkin the most uncommon and curious, "Perhaps your name is Short Ribs, or Sheepshanks, or Lace a Leg," but he always answered, "That is not my name." On the third day the messenger came back again, and said, "I have not been able to find a single new name, but as I came to a high mountain at the end of the forest, where the fox and the hare bid each other good night, there I saw a little house, and before the house a fire was burning, and round about the fire quite a ridiculous little man was jumping. He hopped upon one leg, and shouted, Today I bake, tomorrow brew, the next I'll have the young queen's child. Ha, glad am I that no one knew the Trumpelstiltskin I am styled." You may imagine how glad the queen was when she heard the name. And when soon afterwards the little man came in, and asked, "Now, Mistress Queen, what is my name?" At first she said, "Is your name Conrad?" "No." "Is your name Harry?" "No." "Perhaps your name is Trumpelstiltskin?" "The devil has told you that. The devil has told you that," cried the little man, and in his anger he plunged his right foot so deep into the stage that his whole leg went in, and then in rage he pulled at his left leg so hard with both hands that he tore himself in two. The woman then divorced the evil GOP and went off to live a happy life as an anarchist.